long after sunset, when the hall has grown warm from bodies, candles, and a fire large enough to roast an ox, a young servant notices that one of the benches has been moved, only a little, perhaps the width of a hand. To a modern guest, the difference would seem meaningless. In this hall, it might decide whether a man sits beside the Lord, near the salt, or several places farther down among people whose names the host has already forgotten. The servant looks at the bench, then at the smiling pages gathered behind a pillar, and understands that someone has attempted a joke. Nothing has happened yet. No cup has been overturned. No animal has escaped into the room. No forged letter has been discovered beneath a pillow. The prank consists only of a few inches of wood and the possibility that a proud man will notice. Yet the servant also understands that those few inches may carry more danger than an open flame. In a world where rank is displayed through clothing, food, seating, speech, and the number of attendants who hurry when you raise a finger, moving a bench is not merely rearranging furniture. It is altering a public statement about who matters. This is the first difficulty in telling the history of medieval practical jokes. A gesture that seems harmless now might have felt like an attack then, while an insult that looks cruel to us might have been understood as part of a familiar game. Laughter did not float above medieval society, free from power. It moved through hierarchy. A king could joke downward with little risk. A servant who joked upward needed excellent timing, a forgiving master, and perhaps a nearby door. Friends could mock one another affectionately, but the same words spoken by a stranger might begin a feud. A carnival crowd could turn ordinary rules upside down for a day, then punish anyone who tried to keep them upside down after the festival ended. The people of the Middle Ages laughed constantly. They laughed in kitchens, workshops, barracks, monasteries, taverns, fields, schools, courts, and churches. They told ridiculous stories about greedy merchants, foolish priests, jealous husbands, boastful knights, dishonest millers, clever wives, lazy students, frightened doctors, and animals that seemed more intelligent than their owners. Manuscript margins contain rabbits attacking armed men, monkeys imitating bishops, snails confronting knights, and creatures assembled from the spare parts of several nightmares. Sermons used jokes to hold attention. Legal records preserve insults so colorful that the clerks writing them down must sometimes have struggled to remain solemn. Poems and short tales built entire plots around deception, mistaken identity, bodily embarrassment, and the ancient human pleasure of watching an overconfident person discover that the world is not cooperating. Yet the record is uneven. Medieval chroniclers were more likely to describe a coronation, a rebellion, or a miracle than the afternoon when 3 apprentices convinced a friend that his boots had been blessed by a saint. Most practical jokes vanished the moment the laughter ended. They left no official document, no royal charter, and no monastery account book. What survives most clearly is not a complete catalog of actual pranks, but a mixture of evidence. There are comic stories, court records, religious complaints, rules forbidding disruptive behavior, marginal drawings, festival customs, letters, sermons, and occasional anecdotes about people whose jokes became serious enough to attract authority. That difference matters. A comic tale is not a police report. When a French fabliaux describes a trick involving a priest, a suspicious husband, a hidden lover, and a tub that appears at exactly the wrong moment, it does not prove that the event happened. It does prove that audiences recognize the situation as funny. It reveals the expectations that made the trick work. The audience knew that priests were supposed to be disciplined, husbands were supposed to control their households, and respectable adults were supposed to avoid being discovered in absurd positions. The pleasure came from watching those expectations collapse. So imagine the hall again. The candles tremble in the drafts. Dogs wait beneath the tables for bones. Musicians tune strings near the wall. The host enters, followed by guests whose clothes announce their wealth before they speak. Seating begins. People move according to rank, family, office, and favor. No printed cards identify anyone's place. Servants and household officers know the order because knowing it is part of their work. A mistake can embarrass the host. A deliberate change can insult a guest. The pages behind the pillar have chosen a man famous for mentioning his ancestry whenever conversation slows. He claims descent from heroes, counselors, and one ancestor who may have been important enough to own a bridge. He has corrected other people's titles, complained about the quality of guest rooms, and explained at length that his family has never been seated below anyone from a neighboring county. He is, in other words, an inviting target. The pages have moved his bench slightly down the table and placed a plain cup where a decorated vessel should stand. Would this exact event have happened? Perhaps. Similar acts of misplacement, substitution, disguise, and mock ceremony appear throughout medieval comic culture. But the scene is best treated as a reconstruction, not a recovered incident. Its value lies in showing why a small prank could become dangerous. The victim arrives. He pauses. He sees the cup. He sees the distance between himself and the high table. His face changes. The people nearest him must decide whether to laugh. That decision is not simple. Laughter can create a group instantly. Those who laugh are insiders, joined by shared knowledge. The person being laughed at becomes the outsider. Sometimes this is playful. Friends tease one another because everyone understands the bond beneath the insult. Sometimes it is a warning. A community laughs at someone who has violated expectations, using ridicule to correct behavior without formal punishment. Sometimes it is cruelty made social. The joke works because the victim cannot respond without appearing even more ridiculous. Medieval writers understood this double edge. Theologians did not generally condemn all laughter. They worried about uncontrolled laughter, malicious mockery, and amusement that pulled people toward cruelty or irreverence. Moderate recreation could refresh the mind. A well-timed joke could teach. A comic example could make a moral lesson memorable. But laughter that humiliated the weak, mocked sacred things without restraint, or dissolved self-control was dangerous. The problem was not that laughter existed. The problem was where it led. At a noble feast, it might lead toward a challenge. Honor was not a private feeling hidden inside the heart. It was public reputation. A nobleman's ability to command loyalty depended partly on whether others believed he could protect his status. If he accepted a deliberate humiliation too easily, rivals might interpret patience as weakness. If he reacted violently to every slight, he might look unstable. The ideal response required balance, which became considerably harder after several cups of wine. The host, therefore, has responsibilities. He must restore order without making the victim feel that the joke has been confirmed. Perhaps he replaces the cup, calls the man nearer, and blames careless servants. Perhaps he laughs first, turning the prank into a sign of intimacy. Perhaps he punishes the pages. The same act can end in relief, resentment, or blood, depending on the skill of those present. This social complexity explains why medieval comic literature loved banquet scenes. A feast gathered rank, appetite, vanity, alcohol, performance, and competition into one room. Food itself invited jokes. A pie could conceal something unexpected. A serving dish could be sent to the wrong person. A cup could be filled with a less pleasant liquid. A guest might be tricked into eating what he had condemned moments earlier. The table was a stage, and everyone arrived carrying a role. But the feast was only one theater of medieval humor. In towns, the street offered a much larger audience. A man who fell into mud might hear laughter from windows before he stood. An apprentice could attach something noisy to a companion's clothing. Children might imitate a pompous official after he passed. Market sellers used comic insults to attract customers or repel rivals. Performers mocked accents, professions, and fashionable clothing. Public space made embarrassment fast and difficult to control. Cities also gave jokes consequences. Bells regulated urban life. They called worshippers, marked time, announced danger, gathered councils, warned of fire, and could signal disorder. Ringing a bell without cause was not merely noisy mischief. It could mobilize armed men, interrupt trade, and create panic. University towns were especially vulnerable to such conflict because students often lived under separate legal privileges, while local residents endured the results of their behavior. Medieval students deserved neither romantic admiration nor complete condemnation. They were not one uniform tribe of drunken troublemakers. Many studied intensely under harsh conditions, far from home, with limited money and uncertain futures. Yet university records also reveal repeated disputes involving taverns, weapons, unpaid debts, insults, nighttime disturbances, and violence between scholars and townspeople. Young men, strong drink, legal privilege, and a belief in their own intelligence created a durable recipe for trouble. The practical joke fits naturally into that world because student identity encouraged performance. Students debated publicly. They composed verses. They tested one another with questions. They imitated teachers and rival schools. A prank could display wit, courage, or belonging. The newcomer, who failed to understand a joke, revealed himself as inexperienced. The student who endured humiliation without complaint might earn acceptance. The one who reacted violently might transform a game into a riot. Initiation customs are difficult to reconstruct in detail, partly because institutions preferred not to preserve evidence of their least dignified traditions. Still, hazing, mock examinations, comic ceremonies, and ritualized humiliation have deep histories. A student might be treated as uncivilized until symbolically polished by education. He might be assigned an absurd task, made to wear something ridiculous, or questioned in a deliberately impossible way. The logic resembled later initiation rituals. The group first reduced the newcomer, then accepted him. Such customs reveal another rule of joking. The person who understands that a humiliation is temporary can survive it more easily than the person who fears it will permanently define him. Ritual creates boundaries. This happens now. The embarrassing costume worn at a celebration is funny because everyone knows it will be removed. In medieval festivals, temporary inversion allowed servants to speak more freely, juniors to imitate seniors, and fools to wear symbols of authority. But the permission had a clock. When the time ended, hierarchy returned. No celebration demonstrates this more clearly than the cluster of winter customs often grouped under names such as the Feast of Fools, boy bishop ceremonies, and other forms of festive inversion. These traditions varied greatly by region and century. They were not one universal medieval carnival, and modern descriptions often exaggerate them into scenes of total chaos inside churches. The reality was more controlled, more contested, and more interesting. In some cathedral and collegiate communities, younger clergy or choir boys temporarily took prominent roles. A boy might be selected as a mock bishop. Processions, songs, special clothing, and playful reversals marked the season. Clergy could imitate aspects of hierarchy, and comic performance entered spaces usually governed by solemn order. The purpose was not necessarily to destroy authority. By reversing it briefly, The community acknowledged its power. The joke depended upon everyone knowing what normal order looked like. Church leaders repeatedly tried to regulate these practices. Their complaints are valuable evidence, though complaints must be read carefully. A bishop forbidding masks, improper songs, gambling, or disorder does not prove that every offense happened everywhere. It proves that someone believed the possibility serious enough to address. It also shows the line authorities wanted to draw. Play might be tolerated. Mockery of the Mass, damage to sacred objects, drunken disruption, and behavior that blurred parody with sacrilege could provoke condemnation. The participants may not have seen themselves as enemies of religion. Medieval sacred culture contained humor, surprise, dramatic performance, and paradox. Biblical stories included reversals in which the proud fell and the humble rose. Saints sometimes defeated persecutors through wit. Preachers ridiculed sin. Monastic writers laughed at human weakness, including their own. A festival that dressed a junior figure in the signs of authority could express both amusement and a serious religious theme. Earthly rank was temporary. The mighty could be humbled. The child might speak truth, yet every inversion carried risk. Someone might enjoy the freedom too much. A parody might become an accusation. A joke about a superior could expose genuine resentment. Once laughter entered a sacred or political ceremony, no authority could control every meaning people heard. This uncertainty made festive humor powerful. The court jester occupied a similar uncertain space. Modern imagination dresses every medieval fool in a brightly colored suit with bells and places him beside a throne, ready to insult the king without consequence. Reality was far more varied. Courts employed entertainers of many kinds, including musicians, storytellers, actors, mimics, and individuals described as fools. Some were skilled professional performers. Some may have had intellectual or physical differences that courts exploited for amusement. Some combined dependence with unusual access to rulers. The idea of the fool as the only person permitted to tell truth to power is appealing, but it should not be treated as a universal job description. A ruler might value comic honesty. He might also punish it. The fool's protection rested less on law than relationship. Familiarity could create freedom. A performer who understood the monarch's moods might say what a counselor could not. But the privilege was never absolute. Imagine a royal chamber after a disappointing campaign. Officials praise the king's wisdom because their careers depend on it. The fool notices the exaggeration. He makes a remark that allows two meanings. On the surface, it celebrates victory. Beneath the surface, it asks why the victory cost so much. The king laughs. The counselors laugh after him. Did the joke change policy? Perhaps not. Did it allow a truth to exist in the room? Yes, this indirectness was central to medieval humor. Open accusation was dangerous. A riddle, proverb, animal tale, or comic performance could carry criticism while preserving uncertainty. If challenged, the speaker could retreat. It was only a joke. You misunderstood. I meant nothing by it. That defense has protected witty people for a very long time. But the phrase "only a joke" could also conceal harm. A performer could reinforce prejudice while claiming play. A crowd could humiliate someone who lacked the power to object. A master could force servants to laugh. A group of students could terrorize a town and call it youthful amusement. The laughter of those in control did not make the experience harmless for everyone else. The history of medieval pranks, therefore, cannot be a simple parade of ridiculous accidents. It is a history of permission. Who was allowed to deceive whom? Who could laugh? Who had to pretend to laugh? What happened when the victim refused the role? Every trick contained an invisible map of power. Back in the banquet hall, The proud noble looks at the plain cup. The pages wait. The host watches. For a moment, the entire room balances between amusement and insult. Then the noble lifts the cup, examines it, and calls for wine. He declares that the vessel suits him perfectly because his family has never required silver to prove its worth. The hall laughs, this time with him rather than at him. By answering the joke, he has changed its direction. The pages are disappointed. Their victim has escaped. The host is relieved. The feast continues. No swords are drawn. No letters leave the castle. The joke ends where jokes are supposed to end, in shared laughter and a story improved by retelling. Not every medieval prank was so fortunate. To discover what medieval audiences considered funny, it helps to leave the banquet hall and enter a much noisier place, the world of comic storytelling. A performer stands before listeners in a tavern, courtyard, or household chamber. He does not need scenery. He needs a strong voice, a flexible face, and a story in which someone confident is about to become ridiculous. The short comic narratives, now called fabliaux, flourished especially in medieval France. They are often quick, earthy, clever, and extremely uninterested in preserving anyone's dignity. Their characters include merchants, peasants, priests, husbands, wives, students, clerks, and wandering tricksters. Their plots turn on deception. A person hides where no sensible person would hide. A lie requires another lie, then another. Someone pretends to be ill, holy, dead, wealthy, poor, or invisible. A lover escapes through a window. A greedy figure is cheated. A would-be cheater becomes the victim of a better trick. These stories should not be mistaken for transparent descriptions of ordinary life. Comedy exaggerates. It chooses situations that produce surprise. It repeats stereotypes because the audience recognizes them quickly. But the fabliaux preserve a social imagination in which practical jokes could become weapons. Cleverness often belongs to the person with less formal power. A wife outwits a controlling husband. A peasant embarrasses a proud cleric. A poor traveler tricks a wealthy host into sharing food. The victory may last only until the final line, yet for that moment, hierarchy bends. The humor can be harsh. Bodies leak, smell, trip, hunger, desire, and fail. Modern retellings sometimes sanitize medieval comedy until it sounds like polite conversation in a museum gift shop. The originals are rarely so delicate. They remind us that medieval people inhabited bodies without plumbing, private bedrooms, modern medicine, or a reliable distance from animals. Bodily functions were not invisible. That familiarity did not make them dignified. It made them available for jokes. A prank involving filth could humiliate because cleanliness, self-control, and respectable appearance mattered. The idea that medieval people never bathed and did not notice odor is a modern caricature. People washed to the degree their resources and environment allowed. Towns contained bathhouses in many periods and places. Households cleaned hands, faces, clothing, tools, and spaces. Smell had social meaning. To make someone dirty in public or convince others that a person had soiled himself could destroy composure instantly. Comic tales understood the power of involuntary evidence. A character might explain away a suspicious sound, but the audience knows the truth. He might claim noble restraint while hiding beneath a tub. He might deliver a moral lecture while pursuing someone else's wife. The laughter comes from the gap between identity and behavior. The proud man says one thing, his body reveals another. Geoffrey Chaucer's Miller's Tale offers one of the most famous English examples of a prank multiplying into disaster. The tale is fiction, presented through a storyteller whose personality shapes every detail. It should not be read as an account of an actual event in Oxford, yet it reveals how late medieval audiences could enjoy deception layered upon deception. A young scholar desires the wife of an older carpenter. To create privacy, the scholar convinces the husband that another great flood is coming. The carpenter, terrified and trusting, prepares suspended tubs so the household can escape when the waters rise. He climbs into his vessel and waits. The false prophecy turns his own piety and fear against him. At the same time, another admirer approaches the woman's window. She and her lover decide to mock him. The joke becomes physical, intimate, and cruel. He returns seeking revenge with a heated object. The trick rebounds. Pain produces shouting. The carpenter wakes, cuts himself free, falls, and is injured. When neighbors gather, the deceivers describe him as mad. The final humiliation is not merely that he was fooled. It is that the community accepts the fooler's version of events. Almost everyone in the tale behaves badly. The carpenter is gullible, but his trust is exploited. The scholar is clever but predatory. The wife participates in humiliating one man while deceiving another. The rejected admirer is vain, then violent. The neighbors laugh without knowing the truth. Comedy does not provide a safe, moral center. It creates a chain reaction in which each person's desire to control the situation produces greater disorder. That pattern appears again and again in medieval humor. The prank succeeds, then continues one step beyond success. The victim retaliates. The retaliation strikes the wrong person. Witnesses misunderstand. Authority arrives after truth has become impossible to separate from performance. The story teaches no simple rule, except perhaps that clever people are often less clever than they believe. Practical jokes work through hidden knowledge. The prankster knows something the victim does not. The audience may share that secret, creating anticipation. We watch the victim approach the loose board, false letter, disguised person, or misleading instruction. The pleasure lies partly in prediction. We know what will happen. We also fear the prankster has overlooked something. Medieval storytellers were highly skilled at controlling this knowledge. They delayed revelations, repeated key details, and let audiences understand a double meaning before the character did. Oral performance made the effect stronger. A storyteller could pause before disaster, change voice for each character, imitate confusion, and hold a room silent for the exact instant before laughter. Such performance also allowed stories to change. A tale told in one village might move to another, acquire a local priest, a familiar inn, and the name of someone listeners disliked. The joke became more effective when it seemed close. This helps explain why later collections often preserve multiple versions of similar tricks. The structure traveled more easily than the facts. One popular structure begins with a person who refuses hospitality. A traveler arrives hungry. The host claims there is no food. The traveler then announces that he can make a marvelous soup from a stone, an axe, or another impossible object. Curiosity defeats stinginess. The host contributes water, then salt, then vegetables, then meat. At the end, everyone eats. Versions of this trick appear in many cultures and later periods. Its long appeal rests on a gentle victory. The miser is manipulated into generosity without being robbed. The audience can laugh while approving the result. Other stories are less gentle. A false physician offers a cure that makes the patient worse. A clerk uses Latin words to intimidate people who cannot understand them. A trickster invents an official command. A merchant sells an object with imaginary powers. These tales reflect real anxieties about specialized knowledge. Medieval society depended upon people whose skills were difficult to verify. Physicians, notaries, priests, scholars, money changers, relic dealers, and traveling performers all possessed forms of authority that could be imitated. Impersonation, therefore, carried comic potential and legal danger. clothing, seals, letters, gestures, and language made office visible. Put on the right robe, carry the right document, speak confidently, and many people might obey before asking questions. That possibility fascinated storytellers because it exposed how much power depends on collective belief. Yet real impersonation could be treated severely. Pretending to represent a lord, bishop, town council, or king could disrupt government and invite punishment. Forging a seal or letter threatened property, reputation, marriage, and peace. What sounds like a prank in a story might become fraud in a courtroom. The difference rested in harm, intention, and the identity being borrowed. Love letters were especially dangerous because writing carried weight. Literacy varied across medieval Europe, and written communication did not belong only to a tiny elite, but producing a convincing document often required skill or assistance. A sealed letter could travel beyond the speaker's control. Spoken words might be denied. Ink remained. Comic literature delighted in letters sent to the wrong person, dictated by fools, read aloud before an unintended audience, or interpreted in the most damaging way possible. The joke exploited privacy in a society where privacy was difficult to maintain. A personal message might pass through scribes, messengers, servants, household officers, and family members before reaching its recipient. Every link created opportunity for error or interference. A forged romantic message could be entertaining on a page because the audience knows no real family will be destroyed. In life, accusations of adultery could produce violence, legal action, broken alliances, or confinement. Medieval humor repeatedly approached this edge. The closer a fictional joke came to real danger, the more intense the laughter could become, provided the listeners remained safely outside the story. Women in these tales often appear as master deceivers. This does not mean medieval society generally celebrated female freedom. The comic figure of the clever wife emerged partly from male anxiety about household control. A husband was expected to govern, yet he could never fully know another person's thoughts. The story turns that uncertainty into laughter. He locks doors, watches windows, hires guards, and announces his authority. The wife finds a way around every barrier. Some audiences may have enjoyed these tales as warnings against women. Others may have enjoyed seeing restrictive husbands defeated. The same story could support both readings. Humor is rarely obedient. Once released, it serves listeners differently. Female performers and storytellers are less visible in the surviving record than men, but women certainly told jokes, sang comic songs, teased relatives, and participated in festive customs. Household life depended on conversation during repetitive work. Spinning, sewing, washing, cooking, brewing, and preparing food created long periods in which stories circulated. The absence of written records does not imply silence. Mockery could also police women more severely. Communities targeted those accused of sexual misconduct, marital conflict, or behavior judged disorderly. Public shaming customs sometimes used noise, masks, crude songs, processions, and symbolic objects. In parts of Europe, practices later described with terms such as charivari or rough music gathered neighbors to ridicule a couple or household. These events varied enormously. They might target an unpopular marriage, a husband believed dominated by his wife, a remarriage considered too soon, domestic violence, adultery, or a union that violated local expectation. Participants banged pots, rang bells, shouted verses, paraded effigies, or demanded payment. From within the crowd, the event could feel festive. From inside the targeted house, it could feel like terror. This is where the history of pranks becomes the history of communal coercion. The crowd claims to correct behavior through humor. The victim experiences surveillance, insult, and sometimes physical danger. A practice can be playful for participants and violent for its target. Calling it a joke does not settle the question. Noise itself had power. Medieval soundscapes were not quiet, but particular sounds carried meaning. Bells announced authority. Horns signaled action. Drums, pans, and shouted verses could claim public space. A rough music crowd transformed household conflict into community theater. Private behavior became a spectacle. The ritual sometimes allowed negotiation. The targeted person might provide food or drink, pay the crowd, or promise changed behavior. The noise stopped. In that sense, mockery worked as an unofficial court, but unlike a formal court, it offered uncertain evidence, little protection, and no reliable limit on escalation. The same mechanism that punished an abusive neighbor could also persecute an unpopular widow or unconventional couple. Medieval law understood reputation as a serious possession. Insults could lead to legal complaints. Defamation affected marriage prospects, credit, employment, and social standing. Words such as thief, whore, traitor, heretic, and cuckold did more than wound feelings. They assigned identities that could produce material consequences. This gave comic nicknames dangerous strength. A humorous label repeated often enough might replace a person's name. Some nicknames were affectionate. Others recorded occupation, appearance, origin, or habit. But a mocking name could become a social sentence. Once the whole town laughed, the victim might struggle to escape the role. The manuscript page gives us another window into medieval laughter. In the margins of expensive religious and legal books, artists placed whirls of deliberate disorder. Rabbits hunt humans. Apes play instruments. Hybrid creatures bend backward to inspect themselves. Knights confront snails with extraordinary seriousness. A bishop-like figure may appear beside a monkey imitating ceremony. Scholars continue debating the meanings of particular images. Not every strange creature contains a hidden political message. Some may be visual play, workshop invention, traditional motifs, or jokes whose original context has vanished. The temptation to explain every snail as a coded statement should be resisted. Sometimes a snail may be funny because it is a snail facing a heavily armed man. Scale reversal creates comedy. The weak becomes strong. The slow creature terrifies the warrior. The animal performs the human role badly enough to expose its absurdity. These images resemble festive inversion. They place disorder at the edge of an ordered text. The position in the margin matters. The central text may contain solemn theology. Around it, creatures fight, eat, expose themselves, and behave foolishly. Sacred and comic do not necessarily cancel each other. The contrast may sharpen both. The discipline page contains unruly life at its borders, just as the structured medieval town contained festivals, games, and laughter. Animals were ideal comic performers because they could imitate human society without directly accusing anyone. A fox, preaching to birds, suggests a dangerous religious hypocrite. An ape wearing fine clothes mocks imitation and vanity. A donkey playing music can represent incompetence, but it can also be funny simply because hooves are poorly designed for strings. Real animals also entered human entertainment. Bears, monkeys, dogs, horses, birds, and livestock appeared in markets, courts, and festivals. A trained animal could delight. An untrained one could create chaos. The transcript that inspired this journey tells stories of geese released into halls and pigs racing through markets. Such exact episodes may be invented or impossible to verify, but they feel plausible because medieval households lived close to animals and comic literature repeatedly used them as agents of disorder. A loose pig does not understand hierarchy. It runs beneath the Lord's table, through the merchant's stall, or into the churchyard with equal confidence. Its indifference makes everyone temporarily equal. The official falls. The child laughs. The wealthy guest protects his clothing. The animal becomes a natural fool, exposing human dignity as fragile. But real animal chaos could damage food, goods, and bodies. Markets regulated wandering livestock for practical reasons. A prank that released an animal risked becoming destruction of property. Again, the line between comedy and offense depended on who paid. One manuscript image shows a world where animals triumph and humans stumble. The viewer can laugh because parchment contains the disorder. Outside the page, overturned stalls required labor to rebuild. The same is true of comic stories. Fiction gives danger a boundary. The carpenter falls, but no real bone breaks. The jealous husband rages, but no actual household burns. The forged letter causes confusion, but the storyteller closes the tale before generations inherit the feud. Laughter becomes a rehearsal for disorder without its full cost. Practical jokes in life lack that protection. The prankster begins a story but cannot control the ending. Other people improvise. Fear, pride, fire, weapons, animals, and rumor enter the plot. The joke becomes collective property. That is why medieval authorities so often appear at the end of humorous incidents. The abbot, mayor, master, bishop, judge, or lord arrives after laughter has altered the situation. Authority must decide what the event was. Was it play, insult, fraud, sacrilege, assault, or riot? The label determines punishment. The prankster usually prefers the smallest word. Foolishness, youth. Entertainment. A moment of ale-driven error. The victim chooses a larger word. Dishonor, deception, blasphemy, treason. Between them stands the difficult history of laughter. A monastery seems, at first glance, an unlikely place for practical jokes. The day is structured by bells, prayer, reading, labor, meals, and sleep. Rules govern speech. Silence is valued. Humility is praised. A monk who draws attention to himself risks appearing vain, and a joke that disrupts worship can become more than bad manners. Yet monasteries were communities of human beings. Men and women lived together for years, sometimes for life. They worked in kitchens, gardens, scriptoria, breweries, hospitals, guest houses, and fields. They knew one another's habits with exhausting precision. One brother misplaced tools. Another fell asleep during readings. A third corrected everyone's Latin. Long familiarity creates affection, irritation, and the irresistible desire to imitate the person who always clears his throat before speaking. Monastic rules sometimes warn against excessive laughter, idle words, and clowning. These warnings have often been used to imagine monasteries as places where no one smiled. The better conclusion is that laughter existed strongly enough to require guidance. A rule against disruption tells us there was disruption. It does not tell us that every monastery resembled a tavern after midnight. Humor could support community. A senior monk might use a gentle joke to correct a novice without humiliating him publicly. A preacher could tell an amusing example to make a moral lesson memorable. Brothers could laugh at the small failures that made strict communal life bearable. Monastic collections preserved witty sayings, paradoxes, and stories in which humility defeats pride. The Desert Fathers, whose sayings influenced later monastic culture, sometimes answered questions with startling brevity or humor. The joke in such stories does not exist only to entertain. It exposes self-deception. A visitor asks for a complicated spiritual technique. The wise elder replies in a way that reveals the visitor's problem is not lack of knowledge, but unwillingness to do something simple. Laughter becomes a form of recognition. Other religious humor, aimed outward, preachers mocked people who slept through sermons, rushed toward taverns after worship, or prayed loudly while cheating neighbors. Animals, household objects, and familiar professions appeared in comic examples. A congregation that laughed together was also listening. But jokes involving miracles required caution. Medieval Christians did not accept every extraordinary claim without question. Church authorities investigated relics, visions, healings, and reports of supernatural signs. Standards varied. Evidence could be weak, and belief existed alongside politics and local enthusiasm. Still, the idea that any glowing object or strange dream automatically became an approved miracle is false. A prank that imitated a sacred sign could therefore create serious trouble. Imagine youths placing lamps near a roadside cross so travelers see an unexplained glow before dawn. This is a plausible reconstruction, not a documented event from a named village. The first witness tells a neighbor. The neighbor adds that the light moved. By midday, someone claims a sick child recovered nearby. Visitors arrive. Donations appear. The original pranksters discover that confession now means admitting not only deception, but interference with devotion. The story reveals how rumor grows. Each teller improves what he received, often without deliberate lying. Memory favors meaning. A light becomes a sign because people already hope for signs. The prank does not create belief from nothing. It enters a landscape filled with shrines, relics, pilgrimage, illness, danger, and desire for divine help. Religious authorities might respond with investigation precisely because false claims could damage trust. Wax, footprints, hidden cords, prepared objects, and inconsistent testimony could expose deception. Medieval investigators lacked modern forensic science, but they understood motive, contradiction, and physical evidence. The prankster's favorite defense would be that no harm was intended, yet intent becomes difficult to separate from result. Pilgrims spent money. Sick people changed plans. A monastery's reputation shifted. A sacred object became associated with fraud. The joke had used the community's deepest hopes as material. This helps explain why sacred parody required boundaries. During approved festive customs, participants knew the frame. A mock bishop chosen for a season did not truly claim sacramental authority. A comic procession existed within a calendar. Symbols were inverted temporarily, and the community recognized the play. Outside that frame, imitation could become imposture. A false hermit collecting gifts, a fake pilgrim displaying invented relics, or a performer claiming divine messages might face suspicion or punishment. Medieval society contained many mobile people, and identity often depended upon clothing, speech, letters, badges, and reputation. A clever disguise could open doors. Pilgrim badges, for example, identified people with famous shrines. They also became souvenirs and objects of devotion. A person wearing one participated in a recognized social role. Hospitality might follow. So might trust. The existence of genuine signs always creates the possibility of counterfeit ones. Comic tales loved false holiness. A trickster grows a beard, lowers his voice, mutters Latin, and becomes an authority because listeners supply the rest. The story does not necessarily mock faith itself. Often it mocks the human desire to outsource judgment. The audience sees that a robe cannot make a saint, just as a sword cannot make a brave man. This distinction between office and performance appeared in the theater of misrule. Across medieval Europe, seasonal celebrations allowed masks, costumes, reversals, and mock authority. The details changed by place. There was no single medieval carnival experienced by every village from Ireland to Italy. Some customs were urban, some rural, some courtly, some clerical. Many are better documented in the late medieval and early modern periods than earlier centuries. Still, common themes emerge. Winter and the period before Lent often encouraged feasting and disguise. People wore masks, changed clothing, elected temporary leaders, performed noisy processions, and mocked familiar authority. Food stored for winter, the agricultural calendar, religious seasons, and the need for communal recreation all shaped these events. The mock ruler might be called a lord of misrule, an abbot of unreason, or another local title. Such figures organized games and performances. Their authority was theatrical, yet real enough to direct participants. The joke lay in copying government with exaggerated ceremony. Orders became absurd. Offices went to unlikely people. A servant might command a master to drink. A young person might judge elders in a comic court. These games did not create equality. The real hierarchy remained nearby. Indeed, the wealthy often sponsored festivities, and authorities sometimes used controlled disorder to strengthen loyalty. By giving people a temporary space for criticism, the system could absorb frustration. But control was never perfect. Masks made individuals harder to identify. Crowds provided courage. Songs could include names. Mock judgments could expose real accusations. Property could be damaged. Fights could begin. Authorities who tolerated a procession one year might ban it the next after an injury or political insult. A mask changes more than appearance. It allows the wearer to behave as someone else, but it also lets others pretend not to know who stands behind it. This shared uncertainty can be playful. It can also be threatening. A masked visitor at a door after dark may be a neighbor performing tradition, or a stranger exploiting it. Disguise appears throughout medieval romance and comedy. Knights conceal heraldry to test skill or avoid recognition. Lovers exchange clothing. Servants impersonate masters. Men dress as women and women as men to cross guarded spaces. Monks become merchants. Kings move among subjects in secret. The disguised character learns truths unavailable to the known self. In tournaments, identity mattered intensely. Heraldic signs told spectators and opponents who had entered. Yet anonymous participation also possessed romance. A knight fighting under a hidden device could create excitement. Literature celebrates mysterious champions whose names are revealed after victory. In actual competition, concealment required rules and consent. Tournament culture varied across centuries, from dangerous group combats to highly organized late medieval spectacles. Heralds, judges, safe conducts, lists, and declarations structured participation. A deceptive disguise could entertain when officials allowed it. Used to evade obligations or mislead an opponent, it might appear dishonorable. The boundary again lies in the frame. Everyone at a masquerade expects disguise. A person who hides identity to commit theft is not participating in the joke. The same cloak can support play or crime. Clothing itself invited pranks because garments carried identity. Medieval dress indicated occupation, wealth, age, gender, marital status, region, and affiliation. Sumptuary laws in some places attempted to regulate who could wear certain materials or styles. Enforcement varied, but the concern reveals how seriously appearance communicated status. Swapping garments could therefore produce instant comedy. A servant in a master's robe, a man wearing an oversized fashionable hood, or a solemn official given an absurd hat became funny through mismatch. The body remained the same. Social signs changed. Festivals exploited this mismatch openly. Comic performers exaggerated sleeves, shoes, belts, and headwear. They copied the fashionable until elegance became inconvenience. A long, pointed shoe that displayed wealth could also make its wearer stumble. A towering headdress could catch a doorway. Humor reduced luxury to engineering failure. Satire in image and performance often targeted new fashions because novelty invites judgment. Older generations complain that young people dress foolishly. Preachers describe garments as traps for vanity. Young people respond by wearing them more enthusiastically. The argument has survived every century because neither side wishes to surrender. Practical jokes could use fashion as leverage. Attach a tail to a proud courtier's cloak. Replace a fine belt with a poor imitation. Turn a sleeve inside out before a public appearance. The victim may not feel physical pain, but the joke attacks the carefully managed self. Hair, beards, and shaving carried similar danger. Cutting someone's hair without consent could be assault and humiliation. Tonsures identified clerics. Beards signaled age, masculinity, fashion, or cultural difference depending on time and place. To alter hair was to alter how the person appeared socially. Stories of sleeping men awakened with changed hair, painted faces, or missing garments appear across cultures and eras. Proving a particular medieval incident can be difficult, but the comic structure is ancient. Sleep makes the victim temporarily powerless. Friends test how far trust extends. The awakening provides the reveal. The prank becomes darker when the victim cannot safely answer. Servants sleeping in communal quarters, students in rented rooms, soldiers in camps, and travelers at inns all faced limited privacy. Possessions could be hidden, shoes could be filled, bedding could be disturbed. A minor trick might create hours of inconvenience in a world where replacement goods cost time and money. Modern practical jokes often depend on cheap abundance. We can replace spilled food, damaged clothing, or broken household objects more easily than many medieval people could. A laborer's cloak might represent weeks or months of value. A craftsman's tools secured livelihood. A student's book could cost more than his furniture. Hiding such objects was not automatically harmless. Books inspired a special kind of student mischief because access to them mattered. Before print expanded production, manuscripts required labor. University students often rented, borrowed, copied, or shared texts. Pisha systems in some places allowed sections of approved exemplars to circulate for copying. Delay affected study. A joke involving a missing book could therefore create genuine panic. So could altering notes, exchanging pages, or adding a false gloss. Yet margins also show students and scribes playing intellectually. They drew faces, wrote verses, tested pens, complained about cold, celebrated the end of a task, and occasionally insulted the material. One famous scribal tradition records relief when copying ends. The work bends the back, dims the eyes, and exhausts the body. Such comments humanize the manuscript. The solemn book emerges from tired hands capable of irritation and wit. A scribe might draw a face around a hole in parchment or turn a stain into a creature. This is not always a prank directed at another person. It is play with material. The page surprises the next reader. Sometimes a later reader adds a response. A conversation develops across generations. One hand writes a complaint. Another disagrees. A third draws an animal. The manuscript becomes a slow communal room in which people separated by decades exchange wit. This form of humor rarely goes too far because parchment contains it. Yet even writing in books could be treated as damage, especially if the book was sacred, borrowed, or valuable. A clever doodle to one reader was vandalism to another. Medieval comedy repeatedly returns to ownership. Who owns the object being used for the joke? Who pays for the feast, the broken cup, the frightened horse, the damaged garment? or the lost day of labor. Pranksters focus on the instant of laughter. Victims count afterward. The seasonal feast makes people feel abundant. The morning after restores arithmetic. This rhythm appears in carnival itself. Food is consumed, candles burn, costumes tear, streets fill with waste, and ordinary work pauses. The festival's end requires cleaning, repairing, settling accounts, and returning borrowed objects. Misrule produces a bill. Authorities tolerated expense because celebration served real needs. Communities required recreation. Shared laughter renewed relationships. Festivals created memory, identity, and relief. Human beings cannot live only through labor and discipline, but recreation needed proportion. Medieval discussions of pleasure often defend it as restoration. The mind, like a bow, cannot remain constantly bent. Release allows future work. The image appears in different forms across learned traditions. Play is useful when it prepares people to return to responsibility. A prank that destroys the ability to return has crossed the line. When a joke leaves a family poorer, a person permanently shamed, worship disrupted, or violence begun, recreation has failed its own purpose. The monks who laugh at a brother's harmless imitation can pray together afterward. The students who wake a city with a false alarm may leave resentment lasting for years. The masked crowd that sings about a powerful official may correct arrogance. The same crowd may frighten a widow who has no protection. The history of medieval humor is not a choice between a joyless age and a carnival of constant chaos. It is a negotiation between order and relief. Every community needed both. Every community argued about the correct amount, and every generation believed the younger one had already exceeded it. The tavern was one place where arguments about proportion regularly failed. It offered warmth, company, drink, news, games, and the comforting belief that tomorrow's work belonged to a different version of oneself. It also gathered strangers whose ideas of humor had never been negotiated. Medieval taverns and inns varied from simple rooms serving local ale to large urban establishments offering food, lodging, stabling, and commercial space. They were not lawless zones beyond authority. Town regulations concerned measures, prices, closing times, disorder, gambling, and the quality of drink. Yet enforcement competed with appetite. Games filled tables. Dice were portable, quick, and capable of turning friendship into accusation within minutes. Board games, such as tables, an ancestor within the backgammon family, required more patience but no less argument. Cards arrived in Europe late in the medieval period and rapidly attracted both interest and moral criticism. A prank could begin by loading dice, moving a piece, pretending not to know a rule, or hiding someone's winnings. These acts might be playful among friends if revealed quickly. With money involved, they became cheating. The difference was not always visible until someone reached for a knife. Gaming language entered moral writing because chance exposed character. The winner became boastful. The loser blamed fate, equipment, opponents, and occasionally heaven. Oaths followed. The comic image of gamblers quarreling over a small sum while ignoring greater duties appears repeatedly. Drink amplified performance. People sang, imitated accents, challenged strangers, and told stories with themselves as heroes. The tavern rewarded the loudest version until another witness corrected it. A joke told after 1 cup could sound sharper after 4. Insults often began as tests. One man mocked another's hometown, profession, beard, courage, or ability to hold drink. The target answered. Each response invited a stronger one. Participants might understand the exchange as friendly competition, while companions watched for the point when smiles disappeared. This verbal fencing had rules without judges. The skilled joker attacked without making the other man unable to recover. He left an opening for reply. The cruel joker trapped the target before an audience. Honor then demanded an answer beyond words. Court records preserve the aftermath more often than the humor. A clerk writes that certain persons exchanged abusive words before fighting. The exact rhythm, facial expressions, and laughter are lost. We see the broken head, but not the joke that began it. This creates a distorted archive in which medieval humor seems unusually violent because harmless laughter left less paperwork. The same problem affects prank history. A successful joke disappears into memory. A failed one becomes a case. We therefore know more about bells rung at forbidden hours, damage to property, impersonation, public disturbance, and slander than about the 1,000 small tricks that ended with everyone laughing. One way to restore balance is to examine literature of recreation. Medieval people enjoyed riddles, word games, comic songs, mimicry, storytelling contests, and puzzles. Not all humor required a victim. A riddle invites the listener into cooperation. The speaker hides an answer but promises it can be found. Solving produces satisfaction rather than humiliation. Riddles could be elegant, sacred, obscene, or all three depending on interpretation. They describe familiar objects through strange language. A key, bell, book, onion, tool, or animal became mysterious. The pleasure came from seeing the ordinary twice, first concealed, then recognized. Wordplay crossed social levels. Clerics enjoyed Latin puns. Vernacular poets exploited similar sounds and double meanings. Names became jokes. Mispronunciation exposed outsiders. A multilingual court could turn translation into amusement, though linguistic humor often excluded those who did not share the code. Clearing that barrier could become an act of hospitality. A host explained the pun. The outsider laughed late but joined the group. Refusing explanation preserved superiority. Humor created both bridges and walls. The medieval Mediterranean contained many traditions of witty narrative. In Arabic literary culture, adab works gathered anecdotes, poetry, wisdom, satire, and stories of clever answers. Courtly and urban audiences enjoyed tales in which eloquence reversed power. A person of lower status might survive danger by producing the perfect response. Stories associated with figures such as Juha circulated in Arabic traditions, while tales later connected with Nasreddin Hoxha developed across Turkish, Persian, and neighboring cultures. Dating individual anecdotes is difficult. Collections grew over centuries, and famous comic names attracted stories from many sources. It is safer to speak of traditions than to imagine one historical joker performing every attributed trick. These tales often use literal interpretation. A powerful person gives an ambiguous command. The fool obeys exactly, exposing the command's absurdity. Or the fool appears foolish until the final line reveals that everyone else has misunderstood. Wisdom and stupidity exchange masks. Islamic, ethical, and medical writers, like Christian authors, debated laughter and recreation. Excess could weaken dignity or distract from devotion, but wit, poetry, and pleasant company had valued places. Courts employed entertainers, poets, musicians, and companions skilled in conversation. A ruler's gathering required more than food. It required social intelligence. Byzantine culture likewise preserved satire, parody, festivals, theatrical habits, and sharp political humor, although evidence and terminology differ from Latin Europe. Constantinople was a city of ceremony, factions, crowds, and intense public opinion. Chants in public venues could praise or attack. A witty phrase might spread through the capital faster than an official defense. Jewish communities across medieval Europe and the Mediterranean maintained rich traditions of biblical wordplay, humorous commentary, festive performance, and storytelling. Purim, commemorating reversal in the Book of Esther, encouraged celebration, disguise in some later traditions, parody, and playful treatment of authority. Local customs developed differently, and not every later practice can be projected backward without caution. Still, the theme of reversal connected sacred memory with laughter. Across these cultures, the clever answer appears repeatedly because speech offered a weapon portable enough for the powerless. A person unable to command soldiers could still expose arrogance. A story could grant victory denied in life. Yet court wit remained dependent on patronage. Poets and entertainers needed support. The joke that delighted one ruler might offend his successor. Political satire could be protected by ambiguity, but ambiguity did not guarantee safety. Consider the performer who must entertain a prince known for impatience. He watches the room before choosing material. Has the prince won today? Is a rival present? Has bad news arrived? Are guests foreign? A joke about misers may please, unless the prince has just refused payment. A joke about cowardly soldiers may amuse, unless the army lost yesterday. Comedy is intelligence under pressure. Professional entertainers trained memory, timing, voice, and movement. Their work should not be reduced to spontaneous foolishness. A well-shaped comic tale requires structure. A mimic studies gesture. A musician knows when to interrupt solemnity. A jester survives by reading faces faster than courtiers can hide them. Some court fools had long relationships with rulers and received clothing, wages, gifts, or protection. Records may name them but tell little about performances. Household accounts show that entertainment was institutional, part of the cost of magnificence. A great court had to display culture as well as force. The fool also served as a symbol beyond any real performer. In moral art and literature, folly represents spiritual blindness, vanity, or refusal to understand. The biblical fool says, "There is no God." The worldly fool mistakes temporary pleasure for lasting value. A cap with bells can mark comedy, but also warning. This symbolic burden affected real people. Medieval courts sometimes treated people with physical differences, cognitive disabilities, or mental illness as curiosities or entertainment. They could receive support unavailable elsewhere, but that support existed within unequal and potentially exploitative relationships. Romantic images of the beloved truth-telling fool should not erase vulnerability. Laughter directed at disability was common in many historical societies. The fact should be acknowledged without turning cruelty into charm. People mocked speech, movement, appearance, and behavior that did not match expectation. Comic performance often relied on exaggerated bodies. At the same time, individuals labeled fools could exercise agency, form relationships, earn rewards, and develop distinctive roles. The archive rarely lets them speak for themselves. We should resist making every fool either a secret genius or a helpless victim. Human lives do not fit so neatly. The most ethically revealing question is not whether medieval people laughed at difference. They did. It is whether the target could answer. Reciprocal humor creates some equality. One-sided laughter reinforces domination. This principle appears in household pranks. Servants knew masters intimately. They dressed them, carried messages, cleaned rooms, prepared beds, managed horses, and witnessed private habits. That knowledge created comic material but also danger. A servant who publicly exposed a master's weakness might lose livelihood. Humor, therefore, traveled sideways or downward more safely than upward. In kitchens and stables, imitation could flourish away from the high table. A cook copied the steward's formal voice. A groom reenacted a lord's failed attempt to mount a nervous horse. A maid repeated a guest's complaint about sheets. These performances allowed workers to reclaim experience through laughter. The master might never hear them. That secrecy was part of the safety. Hidden humor creates community among those who share risk. It says that power may control labor, but not interpretation. Sometimes, masters joined the game. A tolerant household could develop traditions of teasing during holidays. Gifts might be comic. Roles might reverse briefly. Yet participation was never perfectly equal. The servant still needed employment after the feast. Apprentices occupied another unstable position. They were learners under authority, often young, energetic, and living within a master's household. Urban regulations and guild structures governed training, behavior, wages, and future advancement. Apprentices also appear in records of street disorder, festival participation, and collective conflict. A prank among apprentices tested courage and belonging. Steal a sign, imitate a rival craft, paint an object, move a cart, release an animal, or deliver an absurd message. The act announced loyalty to the group. Refusal risked ridicule. Group pranks spread responsibility. Each person contributes a small action. No one feels fully responsible for the result. One obtains a rope. Another distracts the watchman. A third suggests ringing the bell. When authority arrives, everyone claims to have followed someone else. This diffusion is not uniquely medieval. It is one reason collective jokes go too far in any era. The group rewards escalation. A participant who questions the plan appears timid. Each new idea must exceed the last. Night adds concealment. Medieval towns after dark were not uniformly silent or abandoned, but visibility decreased, gates closed, watch systems operated, and movement attracted suspicion. Torches and candles cost money. A group moving without clear purpose could frighten residents. Nocturnal pranks, therefore, touched real fears. Fire was a constant urban threat. Houses contained timber, thatch, fuel, cloth, and open flames. A false cry of fire could cause panic. A real flame used for spectacle could spread rapidly. The prankster who hid a lantern near straw transformed comedy into catastrophe through one careless step. Watchmen and neighbors responded quickly because delay killed. A person staging a ghostly light might discover armed guards less interested in supernatural interpretation than in extinguishing danger. The story of a sheet-covered ghost chased across a courtyard is comic only if the pursuer stops before striking. Ghost pranks draw power from shared stories. Castles, roads, ruins, wells, bridges, and forests accumulated legends. The dead were believed capable of returning in different forms across medieval Christian cultures, although theology, folklore, and local belief did not always agree. Purgatory, restless spirits, demons, visions, and dreams formed a complex supernatural landscape. A white cloth, hidden voice, moving light, or knocking wall could therefore provoke genuine fear. This did not mean medieval people were incapable of skepticism. They recognized fraud, illusion, and imagination. But darkness narrows judgment in every century. A ghost prank is an experiment conducted on another person's beliefs without consent. The prankster sees cloth and rope. The victim sees the return of the dead. The gap creates laughter for one side and terror for the other. Confession may restore facts, but not immediately the body. Fear leaves trembling, shame, anger, and mistrust. The victim may be mocked again for having believed. The prank therefore punishes twice, first through fright, then through exposure. This structure resembles false alarms and forged miracles. The prankster borrows a system of trust. Bells, seals, sacred signs, and ghost traditions work because communities agree they mean something. Deception spends that shared meaning for private amusement. Afterward, everyone owns a little less trust. That is one reason authorities punished impersonation and disruptive signals beyond the material damage caused. The joke weakened communication. The next bell might be ignored. The next messenger questioned. The next witness doubted. A society survives through signs. Humor survives by bending them. The challenge is bending without breaking. The medieval tournament appears almost designed for confusion. Armor hides faces. Heraldry identifies bodies at a distance. Horses move rapidly through dust. Crowds shout contradictory advice. Musicians play. Officials announce names, and young warriors attempt to look calm while carrying equipment capable of injuring them before the contest begins. Early tournaments could resemble large, dangerous mock battles spread across countryside. Later forms became more regulated and theatrical, especially in courtly settings. Jousts, foot combats, pageants, disguises, and elaborate entrances turned martial skill into spectacle. The word mock, however, did not mean harmless. Men were injured and killed. Horses suffered. Equipment failed. A playful deception involving armor or identity carried real stakes. Heralds helped organize this world. They recognized arms, announced competitors, recorded achievements, and managed ceremonial knowledge. A mysterious night in romance can remain unknown until the perfect dramatic moment. A real, unidentified, armed rider presented practical problems. Was he eligible? Who guaranteed his behavior? Who paid if he broke rules? Did he carry a feud into the lists? Authorized disguise could heighten entertainment. A team might enter under a theme. Court performers staged allegorical scenes. Participants represented virtues, lovers, foreigners, legendary heroes, or imaginary orders. The audience understood that visible identity had become theater. Unauthorized deception could look like fraud. Borrowing another person's arms threatened reputation. Heraldic symbols belonged to families and political networks, not merely individuals choosing attractive designs. To fight under false signs might transfer praise, blame, or obligation incorrectly. A prankster who concealed identity to surprise friends, therefore, depended upon cooperation from officials. Without that frame, the joke could provoke challenge. The defeated knight might claim he had been denied information necessary to prepare. The crowd might admire cleverness, but the institution valued recognizable honor. Tournament humor did not require false identity. Competitors received comic devices, playful mottos, or exaggerated introductions. Spectators mocked failed chargers and stubborn horses. A rider who entered magnificently, lowered his lance, and immediately fell before contact became a story by sunset. The danger was that martial culture linked laughter with shame. A public fall could damage more than pride. Courage and competence supported social status. The injured participant might fear that laughter would outlive explanations. Some warriors answered embarrassment by laughing at themselves. This was a powerful defense. Self-directed humor transformed failure into control. The knight who rose from mud bowed to the horse and thanked it for correcting his posture could regain the crowd. The person who names the joke first is harder to trap inside it. Others sought revenge. A playful contest became a harder challenge. Friends armed themselves. Families argued. Because medieval aristocratic violence operated through networks, a personal insult could recruit people who never witnessed it. This pattern shows why pranks involving honor were unpredictable. The prankster imagined one victim. The victim belonged to a lineage, household, guild, university nation, neighborhood, monastery, or political faction. Mock one person and the group might hear an attack on all. Collective identity magnified small gestures. Students from different regions formed nations within universities. Crafts defended guild reputations. Monastic houses competed. Towns mocked neighboring towns. Regional jokes traveled widely, assigning foolishness, greed, dishonesty, or cowardice to entire populations. Such stereotypes made comedy efficient. The storyteller named a place, and the audience already expected the character to behave badly. The target's individuality disappeared. He became the foolish villager, arrogant city dweller, dishonest miller, ignorant rustic, or soft courtier. Medieval people were not uniquely prejudiced, but their humor demonstrates how laughter makes social categories feel natural. Repetition turns an accusation into common knowledge. The joke no longer needs proof because everyone has heard it before. Occupational humor worked similarly. Millers faced suspicion because they controlled grain measurement and processing. Merchants were portrayed as greedy or deceptive. Physicians charged fees while treatments remained uncertain. Lawyers multiplied words. Clerics preached standards they did not always meet. Peasants were treated as coarse by elites, while peasant humor likely returned the favor. The joke gave each group a distorted mirror. Sometimes, the distortion corrected genuine abuse. Sometimes, it justified contempt. Often, it did both. Marketplaces concentrated these tensions. Buyers and sellers negotiated quality, weight, origin, and price. Inspectors checked measures. Public punishments could target dishonest trade. A merchant's reputation determined credit, and credit moved goods. Pranks involving false rumors of treasure, rare cargo, or miraculous products exploited commercial competition. The transcript describes merchants chasing imaginary wealth after being shown mysterious crates. The exact tale is not supported as a documented incident, but its logic resembles many trickster stories. Secrecy produces desire. Rivals assume concealed value. Greed performs the rest. Markets were information networks. News arrived with travelers, sailors, pilgrims, carriers, and merchants. Accurate reports mixed with speculation. A rumor could raise prices before goods arrived. It could empty a stall, damage credit, or send buyers toward a false opportunity. Starting such a rumor as a joke risked economic harm. A claim that a ship had sunk, a road closed, a tax changed, or a disease entered town could alter behavior immediately. Authorities tried to control false news because commerce depended on expectation. Rumor also shaped politics. Medieval governments used proclamations, letters, messengers, sermons, and public readings. Seals authenticated documents, though not perfectly. Many people received official information orally from someone reading aloud. This gave the messenger enormous importance. Impersonating authority could be comic in fiction because officials become absurd. A fake order instructs villagers to perform impossible tasks. The audience laughs at obedience. In life, false commands could disrupt labor, taxation, defense, and justice. The prankster relies on a familiar weakness. People fear the cost of disobedience more than they trust their doubts. A strange command bearing a plausible seal may be obeyed until verification arrives. The delay creates the joke and the damage. Medieval administration was not as slow or primitive as caricature suggests. Chanceries developed sophisticated documentary practices. Clerks recognized formulae, hands, seals, witnesses, and routes of transmission. Town governments kept records. Royal officers communicated across large territories. This sophistication made forgery both more difficult and more meaningful. A poorly formed letter might fool an ordinary recipient briefly, but fail under expert inspection. Once exposed, the forger faced consequences beyond embarrassment. He had attacked the credibility of government. The same applies to counterfeit relics, coins, weights, and credentials. Humor may imitate fraud, but law distinguishes them by purpose and effect. The person who reveals the trick immediately among consenting friends may escape with anger. The person who benefits or causes loss enters another category. Consent is a modern word, often absent from medieval descriptions of humor, yet the underlying issue appears repeatedly. Did participants expect the game? Could the target leave? Could the target answer? Was property restored? Did the joke exploit sacred trust, legal authority, physical vulnerability, or social dependence? These questions help us evaluate old customs without pretending medieval people shared every modern standard. Communities recognized excessive cruelty even if they drew lines differently. They punished assault, damage, slander, false alarms, and disorder. Victims complained. Authorities intervened. The past did not lack concepts of harm. It also lacked equal protection. A wealthy victim could demand justice more effectively than a servant. A man accusing another man of dishonor had options unavailable to many women. Outsiders, minorities, disabled people, the poor, and socially isolated individuals could become safer targets because retaliation was less likely. Practical jokes often reveal cowardice disguised as boldness. The prankster claims courage while selecting someone unable to respond. Medieval moralists understood this form of laughter as vicious. Mocking the unfortunate did not demonstrate wit. It exposed bad character. Yet communities sometimes used humor to challenge those above them. Satirical songs, carnival speeches, animal allegories, and whispered imitations allowed criticism. The powerful could punish individuals, but struggled to punish an entire laughing crowd without appearing ridiculous themselves. Laughter creates a special political problem. An order can forbid words. It cannot easily prove why someone smiled. The ruler may sense mockery, but lack a target. Ambiguity protects the audience. This is why tyrants fear jokes. Humor makes authority look constructed. A crown, robe, throne, procession, or title works because people agree to respond seriously. Copy it badly, place it on a goat, or give it to a child, and the symbols become visible as objects. Festive inversion did this temporarily. It did not necessarily demand revolution. Most participants returned to ordinary hierarchy, but for a moment they experienced the fact that roles could be exchanged. The lord of misrule sits in a borrowed place. The mock court issues absurd judgments. The servant speaks while the master listens. Everyone laughs because the scene is impossible, and because it is possible enough to recognize. This tension gives medieval humor its energy. The joke says the world is fixed, then it moves the bench. Some rulers understood the value of tolerating such movement. A court that could laugh at itself displayed confidence. A king who accepted a careful joke appeared secure. A lord who punished every smile advertised fear. Tolerance had limits. Satire that named political failure too directly, insulted lineage, questioned legitimacy, or encouraged collective action could become dangerous. Performers learned to approach truth diagonally. Animal fables provided excellent cover. The lion is a king, but not this king. The fox is a counselor, but not this counselor. The wolf is a corrupt official, but no one has named the official. Everyone understands, no one can prove it. Reynard the Fox traditions flourished across medieval Europe in different languages and forms. Reynard is clever, selfish, resourceful, and often cruel. He survives by manipulating stronger animals. The lion's court becomes a distorted human court, filled with accusation, influence, and failed justice. Audiences could admire Reynard's intelligence while recognizing his moral emptiness. Tricksters attract because they defeat power, but they also demonstrate the damage of cleverness without loyalty. The same ambivalence surrounds real pranksters. The person who deceives a greedy rival seems heroic. The person who deceives a trusting friend seems contemptible. The technique may be identical. Moral judgment depends upon relationship and target. Stories of clever thieves often follow this distinction. A thief steals from the rich, humiliates corrupt officials, and escapes through ingenuity. The audience enjoys redistribution in imagination, yet actual theft from an ordinary household threatened survival. Comic distance matters. The medieval outlaw occupies a similar border between danger and fantasy. Literature turns forest fugitives into champions of justice more easily than villagers facing armed bands could. Jokes about officials feel different when told safely by the fire than when the official controls tomorrow's tax collection. Humor provides temporary mastery over fear. People joke about death, hunger, marriage, illness, clergy, lords, demons, and weather because these things shape their lives. The laugh does not prove suffering was small. It proves people refuse to surrender every emotional response to it. Death itself entered medieval comedy. Skeletons dance. The dead speak. Wills produce quarrels. A person pretends to die and listens to what others reveal. Gallows humor helps communities approach what cannot be avoided. But pretending someone has died can cause real grief. False reports of illness or death travel quickly and cannot be recalled from every listener. A joke that depends on love may wound most deeply. This principle appears in modern pranks as well. The more a person cares, the stronger the reaction. Medieval pranksters did not need psychology to understand it. They knew which messages made someone run. A false cry that a child had fallen, a house burned, an enemy approached, or a loved one returned could command the body before thought. Laughter afterward might release tension for bystanders. The victim may feel only betrayal. Trust cannot always be restored by revealing the trick. The nervous system has already believed. The safest medieval humor often depended on shared fiction rather than false reality. A riddle announces concealment. A play announces performance. A carnival announces inversion. A tale announces invention. The audience agrees to be deceived. Practical jokes become dangerous when they remove that agreement and borrow the authority of truth. The difference between theater and fraud is not that one uses illusion. Both do. Theater builds a door back to reality. The prankster who goes too far hides the door. By late afternoon, the fair has filled every road leading toward the town. Farmers arrive with baskets, merchants with pack animals, performers with instruments, pilgrims with badges, students with arguments, and children with the determined ability to disappear exactly when adults begin counting them. The scene is not tied to one precise year or place. It is a composite, built from the kinds of gatherings described across medieval Europe, where trade, worship, entertainment, and social display met in crowded public space. At the gate, an official collects fees and tries to maintain order. He has been working since dawn and possesses the expression of a man who has already explained the same rule too many times. Apprentices imitate his voice once they are safely out of hearing. One raises a stick like an official staff and commands a chicken to pay market toll. His friends laugh. The chicken refuses to cooperate, preserving its legal position through silence. This is harmless mimicry, or close to it. The official remains unaware. No business stops. No one mistakes the imitation for real authority. The joke allows young workers to release frustration without confronting the person who can find their masters. A few stalls away, a seller demonstrates cups that appear to contain more liquid than they do. The device is not necessarily fraud. Novelty vessels and trick objects have long histories, and skilled makers understood how shape can deceive the eye. The seller pours water, turns the cup, and invites a volunteer. People gather because controlled surprise is pleasurable. The volunteer expects deception. He studies the rim, checks beneath the vessel, and still spills water across his sleeve. The crowd laughs. He laughs too because the contract has been honored. He entered the performance knowing he might become the example. The seller offers him a cloth and perhaps a small cup of ale. Dignity is restored through participation. Nearby, a storyteller performs a tale of a scholar who knows the names of every star but cannot recognize his own stolen shoes. The scholar lectures a ferryman on grammar. The ferryman quietly asks whether grammar can swim. Before the scholar answers, the boat strikes trouble. The audience anticipates the reversal. Learning without practical wisdom becomes the target. Several students laugh more loudly than necessary. One protests that the story is unfair. His companions immediately ask whether he can swim. Now the fictional joke enters the group but remains light. They share the code. Across the square, a different performance unfolds. A masked figure dressed as a judge sits upon a barrel. He hears comic complaints. A wife accuses her husband of loving dice more than supper. A baker accuses the rain of reducing customers. A child accuses a goat of eating evidence. The judge issues absurd sentences. The husband must surrender dice for one evening. The rain must apologize before harvest. The goat is ordered to return the document unchanged. The crowd recognizes local tensions. People laugh because the mock court names frustrations formal courts would never hear. No legal decision changes. Yet public opinion becomes audible. Then someone brings a genuine grievance against an unpopular official. The tone shifts. The masked judge hesitates. If he continues, the performance may become political accusation. If he refuses, the crowd may accuse him of cowardice. He chooses indirectness. He asks whether the official is present. People look around. The official stands near the gate, listening. The masked judge announces that no case can proceed because the defendant has already been sentenced to count chickens until sunset. The crowd laughs. The official smiles thinly. Criticism has been delivered, but softened. This is how festive humor negotiates danger. Everyone understands more than anyone says. The mask protects the performer, but not perfectly. Tomorrow, the official may remember the voice. As evening approaches, a procession moves toward the church. Musicians play. Guild members carry candles and banners. Children hold ribbons. The ceremony is sincere. Celebration and devotion are not opposites. People who laughed at the mock court now kneel. The shift feels natural because the day contains many registers. Outside the sacred space, sellers continue calling. One claims his cakes cure sadness. A woman replies that his prices cause it. The exchange draws laughter and perhaps a sale. Commercial wit becomes negotiation. Inside, the preacher understands that tired listeners need attention. He describes a miser who locks food away so carefully that even he cannot find it. The congregation laughs. The lesson follows. Wealth unused serves no one. The joke opens memory, and the moral enters behind it. After worship, tables appear. Food circulates according to means and rank, but festival abundance softens ordinary boundaries. Musicians perform a song with verses that can be changed. A local man known for boasting becomes the subject of one line. He raises his cup in acknowledgement. By accepting the joke, he protects himself from harsher laughter. A second verse targets a woman rumored to quarrel with her husband. The laughter is less comfortable. She does not smile. Her neighbors notice. The singer moves on quickly, but the harm remains. The same custom that welcomes one person exposes another. This difference is the heart of the matter. Humor is not made harmless by tradition. A song repeated for generations can still wound the person named tonight, nor is every offended person proof that comedy has failed. Social life requires tolerance for some teasing and disagreement. The difficult work lies in recognizing power, pattern, and consequence. Medieval communities performed that work imperfectly, just as ours do. They apologized, retaliated, fined, forgave, banned, repeated, and argued. They created spaces where disorder was expected and rules for restoring order afterward. They also ignored victims when the crowd enjoyed itself too much. The feast continues. A young man considers hiding a neighbor's cloak. He imagines the laughter when the owner searches. Then he notices rain beginning outside. The cloak is not decoration. It is warmth for the journey home. He leaves it where it hangs. This unperformed prank teaches as much as any disaster. Most people in the past were capable of estimating consequences. For every joke that went too far, countless others were abandoned, softened, or revealed early. History rarely records restraint because nothing happened. The surviving transcript that began this journey offers many vivid episodes. Banquet cups are switched, students ring bells, geese invade halls, letters are forged, pigs destroy markets, fake royal messengers command towns, monks hide wine, servants stage ghosts. These scenes are entertaining because they use credible medieval settings and universal comic structures. But vividness is not evidence. A detailed scene with named characters can still be modern invention. The transcript rarely identifies sources for its individual stories, and several episodes read like crafted anecdotes designed to illustrate a theme rather than events traceable to medieval records. That does not make them useless. It makes them prompts for better questions. Could rank at a banquet be communicated through seating and vessels? Yes. Could students create disturbances involving bells, taverns, and town authority? Certainly. Could jesters use dangerous wit? Yes, though the protected truth-teller is more variable than legend suggests. Could religious illusion provoke investigation? Plausibly, and church authorities did scrutinize claims. Could animals cause chaos in halls and markets? Of course. Could forged letters and impersonated authority lead to punishment? Absolutely. Did each colorful story happen exactly as told? Without sources, we should not claim so. Historical honesty does not require removing every enjoyable scene. It requires labeling the kind of scene we are using. A documented event can be narrated as an event. A literary episode can be presented as fiction that reveals cultural expectations. A common practice can be reconstructed carefully. A later legend can be described as legend. Uncertainty does not weaken storytelling. It gives the audience a clearer view of how knowledge survives. Medieval history is especially vulnerable to invented anecdotes because the period feels distant enough to absorb almost anything. Put a castle, monk, goose, and goblet into a story, and many listeners accept it as medieval. The same happens with claims about hygiene, medicine, marriage, punishment, and superstition. Familiar darkness replaces evidence. Humor encourages this process because comic truth feels different from factual truth. A story may express something recognizable about vanity, even if the characters never existed. The listener remembers the emotional pattern and forgets the uncertainty. That is why responsible historical comedy must perform two tasks at once. It should preserve the insight without forging the event. We can laugh at the imagined noble who treats a plain cup as a constitutional crisis, while explaining that the scene is a reconstruction based on real status culture. We can enjoy the chaos of a loose animal, while refusing to invent a court record that never existed. The real medieval world offers enough strangeness without fabrication. Its humor survives in tales, songs, images, legal quarrels, ritual reversals, scribal comments, satirical animals, festive offices, and sharp replies. It does not need to become a collection of untraceable viral stories. As darkness deepens over the fair, torchlight changes faces. The masked judge removes his costume. He is an ordinary craftsman, tired and slightly worried about whether the gate official recognized him. The storyteller counts coins. The students continue debating. The woman targeted by the song walks home with a friend. The proud man, praised for laughing at himself quietly, asks the singer not to repeat the verse tomorrow. Recreation ends unevenly. Some carry pleasant memories. Some carry resentment. The town begins cleaning before the last drink is finished. A pair of children discover the barrel that served as the mock judge's throne. They climb onto it and imitate adults. One accuses the other of stealing an imaginary horse. The judge asks for witnesses. A dog passes. It is appointed witness, clerk, and bishop because the children have run out of available officials. Their laughter is free because the stakes are imaginary. They are learning social roles by bending them. Play allows them to test authority, fairness, and language. The game will end when someone calls them home. This developmental function of humor is easy to overlook. Children and young people learn boundaries through jokes. They discover which words attract laughter, which cause pain, and which bring punishment. Adults do the same with more expensive consequences. Medieval educational culture used play despite suspicion of idleness. Memory games, riddles, disputation, song, and dramatic representation helped learning. A teacher who could amuse held attention. A student who could answer cleverly displayed command of language. But the classroom also reproduced hierarchy. The teacher's joke might humiliate the slow student. Peers could turn error into identity. Education promised refinement while using shame as discipline. Comic tales about foolish students may have comforted townspeople who resented university privilege. Students answered with jokes about ignorant locals. Each group made the other simple enough to laugh at. The famous conflict between town and gown did not consist only of humor, of course. It included jurisdiction, rent, prices, violence, and institutional power. A prank might ignite tensions already present. Blaming the joke alone would miss the dry wood beneath it. This is true of many incidents. The banquet prank does not create noble rivalry from nothing. The forged letter works because jealousy exists. The false messenger succeeds because government is feared. The ghost illusion terrifies because stories already shape the castle. The rough music crowd gathers because neighbors have judged a household. Pranks reveal pressure. They are not always the pressure's cause. The most dangerous prankster is therefore not simply foolish. He is socially unaware. He sees the mechanism but not the structure around it. He knows how to move the bench, but not why the bench matters. He can ring the bell, but not hear the city responding. Cleverness without context becomes stupidity. Medieval trickster stories return to this lesson repeatedly. The deceiver who cannot stop becomes deceived. The man proud of his intelligence builds the trap that catches him. The audience enjoys justice shaped as reversal. Reversal feels satisfying because ordinary justice is slow and uncertain. In the story, greed produces immediate loss. Hypocrisy becomes public. Cruelty rebounds. The world briefly behaves as though actions carry perfectly designed consequences. Real life offers no such guarantee. A cruel prankster may escape, An innocent person may remain the joke. The historical record may preserve the powerful person's version. Literature supplies balance where society does not. This helps explain the popularity of figures who live by wit. Reynard, clever wives, resourceful peasants, sharp servants, fools, students, and wandering tricksters all cross boundaries. They promise that intelligence can defeat rank, yet the promise is uneasy. Tricksters rarely build stable communities. They survive by spending trust. After the final deception, they must move on. The better comic figure is sometimes the reconciler. He exposes absurdity, lets everyone laugh, and restores relationship. His joke does not leave one person beneath the table while others celebrate. It returns the group to itself. Court performers at their best could perform this function. A tense disagreement becomes a story. Two rivals laugh at a shared weakness. A ruler hears criticism without public defeat. Humor lowers emotional temperature. Household teasing could do the same. A mistake becomes a family phrase rather than lasting shame. Repetition transforms frustration into affection, provided the target participates. Communal festivals renewed belonging through laughter, food, performance, and temporary license. Their risks do not erase their value. People needed days when ordinary seriousness loosened. Surviving winter, harvest uncertainty, illness, labor, taxation, and conflict required more than endurance. It required pleasure. The Middle Ages were not an age waiting sadly for modern entertainment to arrive. People made music, played games, told stories, danced, watched spectacles, celebrated feast days, exchanged gifts, teased friends, and decorated books with impossible creatures. They possessed comic intelligence as subtle and contradictory as our own. What differed were the systems jokes touched. Rank was displayed differently. Written documents were rarer and sometimes more authoritative. Bells carried public signals. Household privacy was limited. Physical goods were expensive. Religious calendars structured time. Local reputation shaped survival. A prank must be understood inside those conditions. Moving a bench may matter more. Hiding a cloak may endanger. Ringing a bell may mobilize. Forging a letter may threaten lineage. Dressing as authority may disrupt government. Mocking sacred ritual may test both devotion and institutional patience. At the same time, modern assumptions can make medieval reactions seem more severe than they were. People recognized games, parody, theatricality, and temporary inversion. They were not incapable of understanding a joke. They simply disagreed, as we do, about who had earned the right to make it. The final candles in the fair burn low. The official closes the gate. Travelers find lodging. Merchants cover goods. Musicians wrap instruments. Somewhere, a student hides a friend's belt, considers the cold journey in the morning, and puts it back. In the noble hall from the beginning, the plain wooden cup remains on the table. The proud guest has turned the attempted insult into a successful line. Others repeat it. By next year, the story will improve. The bench will have been moved the length of the room. The cup will become a feeding bowl. The pages will become rival nobles. The guest's answer will grow sharper with every telling. Eventually, someone will record the anecdote as though every detail were certain. A later reader will repeat it. Centuries pass. The story appears in a video under the title of A Medieval Prank That Went Too Far. Even though in the earliest version, nothing truly went wrong. This is how humor travels. It enlarges itself. The historian's task is not to silence the laughter. It is to listen for layers. Beneath the polished anecdote lies a real culture of rank, hospitality, wit, danger, and performance. Beneath the invented names lies a recognizable social mechanism. Beneath the joke lies a question about power. Who moved the bench? Who noticed? Who laughed? Who paid? Those four questions can guide us through nearly every medieval prank, whether documented, literary, reconstructed, or legendary. The first asks about action. The second asks about audience. The third asks about alliance. The fourth asks about consequence. A joke that costs nothing and leaves everyone able to answer may become community. A joke that transfers its cost to someone powerless becomes cruelty. A joke that borrows public authority becomes danger. A joke that reveals its frame can become art. Medieval people knew all of these possibilities. They did not always choose wisely. Neither do we. One final caution belongs here because modern audiences often search for a single medieval beginning to every familiar joke. April Fool's Day is a favorite example. It is tempting to imagine one dramatic change of calendar that left stubborn people celebrating the new year on the wrong date while everyone else mocked them. The story is neat, memorable, and repeated constantly. It is also much less secure than its confidence suggests. Seasonal fooling customs certainly existed in Europe, and late medieval literature contains references to errands, tricks, comic reversals, and people made to look foolish. New Year observances varied by region, institution, and period. Calendars were complicated, but the claim that one calendar reform simply created April Fool's Day by turning old-fashioned celebrants into targets is not supported well enough to be treated as fact. The search for one birthday misunderstands how customs develop. People imitate, combine, rename, and adapt practices. A spring joke in one town may have no direct relation to a winter misrule ceremony elsewhere. Later observers connect them because both involve fools. The result becomes a family tree drawn after the branches have already intertwined. Medieval humor rarely offers clean origins. A comic motif may appear in Latin, French, Arabic, Hebrew, Italian, German, or English forms without revealing one starting point. Travelers carry stories. Translators reshape them. Performers choose details their audience understands. The trick is old before anyone writes it down. This is especially true of the fool's errand, in which someone is sent to obtain an impossible object or deliver a meaningless message. The victim's journey creates entertainment for those who know the truth. Versions appear across cultures because the structure requires little. A newcomer, an invented task, and a group sharing secret knowledge are enough. The errand can initiate gently. The victim returns, discovers the joke, and later sends another newcomer on the same mission. Membership arrives through shared memory. But the same practice can become hazing when the task is dangerous, costly, or endless. Tradition does not decide morality. Proportion does. Medieval thinkers who wrote about recreation often emphasized suitability. A joke should fit the person, place, and time. This sounds simple because it is a form of practical wisdom rather than a formula. The same words spoken at a feast, funeral, classroom, battlefield, or bedside do not carry the same meaning. Suitability also includes the speaker. A close companion may mention a weakness that a stranger should leave untouched. A fool may perform an imitation that a counselor cannot. A child may be forgiven for irreverence that looks calculated in an adult. The art of humor lies in reading these invisible conditions. The prankster who fails does not always lack imagination. He may lack attention. Attention was one of the greatest skills of successful medieval performers. They watched posture, clothing, fatigue, rank, and reaction. They knew when listeners wanted relief and when they wanted dignity. Their surviving stories may look spontaneous, but the social reading behind them was disciplined. This helps us understand why humor itself could be considered a form of intelligence. Wit connects distant ideas quickly. It discovers resemblance, contradiction, and hidden weakness. A clever response turns the attacker's words around without requiring force. But speed can hide moral laziness. The quickest joke often reaches for appearance, disability, gender, origin, poverty, or shame because the audience already recognizes those targets. True wit can surprise without repeating contempt. Medieval culture produced both kinds, just as every culture does. When we laugh at old jokes now, we enter another layer of power. The medieval victim cannot object. A story about an ignorant peasant may confirm modern stereotypes about the entire period. A tale about a corrupt monk may become proof that all religious life was fraudulent. A foolish medical remedy may encourage the belief that no one observed nature carefully. Responsible laughter does not require solemnity. It requires scale. One foolish character is not a civilization. One satirical priest is not every priest. One violent student is not a university. Comedy selects extremes because ordinary competence rarely creates a punchline. The quiet majority maintained fires, copied texts, judged disputes, raised children, repaired roads, prepared worship, traded honestly, and told jokes that harmed no one. Their competence created the stable background against which the comic failure became visible. A person slips because most people remain standing. A false messenger works because real messengers usually carry true orders. A forged letter frightens because authentic letters matter. A mock bishop is funny because real episcopal ceremony is recognizable. Humor depends upon order, even when it attacks order. That may be the deepest connection between medieval jokes and medieval society. Laughter was not an escape from structure. It was one way of examining structure. Sometimes it strengthened community. Sometimes it exposed hypocrisy. Sometimes it punished difference. Sometimes it simply helped tired people reach the end of a long day. The historian listening across centuries should resist two opposite errors. The first imagines medieval people as grim, frightened, and incapable of irony. The second transforms them into modern pranksters wearing old clothing. They were neither. Their humor grew from their own institutions, beliefs, dangers, languages, and material lives. We recognize the surprise, embarrassment, and delight because human social instincts endure. We misunderstand the stakes when we remove the world around them. A cup is never only a cup when it identifies rank. A bell is never only noise when it signals fire. A mask is never only a costume when it hides political speech. A joke is never only words when reputation feeds a family. And yet a laugh is still a laugh. It interrupts breath. It spreads between bodies. It can arrive before permission. Across the distance of centuries, it remains one of the clearest signs that the people we study were not shadows arranged around kings and wars. They were alert to absurdity. They noticed pretension. They teased, performed, exaggerated, and failed. They knew the pleasure of a secret. They also knew the moment when a secret should be revealed. The hall grows quiet at last. Servants gather cups. Dogs sleep beneath benches. Ash settles in the hearth. Outside, the roads are dark, and guests will wait until morning before traveling. The pages who moved the bench have been assigned to clean the room. Their punishment is not brutal. It is practical. They created disorder. They will restore order. One page lifts the wooden cup and considers hiding it again. The other shakes his head. They have learned something. Not that jokes are forbidden. Not that powerful people should never be mocked. Not that laughter belongs outside serious history. They have learned that comedy is a form of action, and actions continue after the laugh. The cup returns to its shelf. The bench returns to its place. The last candle is extinguished. For tonight at least, the joke is over.